So I really wanted to make something else today. I really wanted to make a review of a figure, but every time I go to put anything to the page, there's just something else that's dominating my mind. Something that even creeps in there when I'm trying to sleep. And this channel has always been so that way I can get the stupid things that are keeping me up at night out of my head and into the world so I can stop thinking about them. Hasbro has said that they are no longer in the business of making movies anymore. So let's talk about that. But first, your likes! Please give, and maybe subscribe. And the first thing I want to point out is that this is exactly the kind of thing that I've been talking about for a while now. Several people have told me that I'm an alarmist when I say that Hasbro is doing badly financially. That they can't keep sustaining flop after flop and making bad financial decisions like they keep doing. This is kind of the stage one of a collapse though. Hasbro has stated that they are out of the movie making game. And to be clear people, that doesn't mean that we are never going to see another Transformers movie again. Honestly, it would be absolutely insane for them to try and give up on that aspect of their business, as it would mean that they're basically giving up on marketing their figures, which is sadly not entirely out of the realm of possibilities. However, what Hasbro has said is that they are no longer funding the making of movies based on their properties, and they've sold off the film production arm of their company for an eye-wateringly paltry amount considering what they bought it for, less than a sixth of what they paid. Ouch! That's how bad they want to be out. However, just because Hasbro isn't paying for movies to be made now doesn't mean that movies can't be made. They can still license the Transformers to film companies to make movies based on their products. Most obviously that will be Paramount. Now just give me a moment to take a slow glance over to the state of the Hasbro video game division and see how they're oh right, we have a real reason to be concerned. Hasbro has had nothing stopping them from handing out the license to make games based on the Transformers, which is basically just like a free money printer, and yet we have seen no new games from them for a decade that weren't some cash grab phone app or a literal piece of shovelware that they shat out earlier this year. And Transformers Reactivate is in such development hell that even though it's the only game we know they've been working on for the longest time, people aren't convinced that it's happening at all. And it's hard to argue with that when we've heard jack shit about it. They pulled the original trailer for it, so now not even that confirms its existence, and then Hasbro does some shit like this, where they decided that they want to stop funding the creation of even the movies, so that game is even less certain than it ever was. If Reactivate comes out, it will be a miracle. Now, the pipeline for the movies is way more set up than it ever was for the games, with Hasbro being partnered with Paramount the entire time, whereas the games, they clearly wanted more control, and they repeatedly let their licenses with studios lapse like they did with Activision, which insanely resulted them in no longer selling the games that they already birthed like a horrible mutant, that are completely free money that they already put the work in to rend from our wallets, that they are flat out refusing to pick up because it would mean that they have to talk to like one other person on the phone. Hey, evil CEO of Activision, it's the evil CEO of Hasbro. Do you maybe want to keep selling the games that make us both money? And also, did you hang out with any cute boys lately? And did you see what that whore Mattel was wearing? Anyways, it is a far safer assumption that they will get another movie, as those have never been in the chaotic state the games have been. However, what this does mean is that since that Hasbro is no longer funding their creation at all, Hasbro will get almost no say in the movie's contents. They are not putting $1 in anymore, so what Paramount says goes. And it doesn't matter if that's going to work with the toys or if it makes the brand less respected once again. Hasbro doesn't get to say shit. Now for some people, I'm sure that this is hugely exciting news, because while I seriously doubt that this will happen, if there was ever any chance for Bay to direct another Transformers movie again, this is just about the only way that that's going to happen. However, it's not like Paramount is doing great either. Paramount's name is on all of those recently flopped movies as well, doing probably more damage to their company than Hasbro, because at least Hasbro has the toys to fall back on and the Magic the Gathering sugar daddy to prop them up in even the most dire conditions. But Paramount has Top Gun Maverick, and that's about it. The Sonic movies aren't even in the list of their top 25 most successful films ever, and outside of that, their biggest hits are the Transformers movies, a decade ago. And all of their recent Transformers ventures have only basically barely broken even. This is not a movie studio who has the option to throw money at a project in a series that's been nothing but disappointments to them for a decade. Which honestly might mean that they're actually less inclined to go with Bay in the end, as his style of overblown action movie costs more than American healthcare. There's really three directions that I can see them going from here. 1, dump an unsafe amount of money into a live-action movie and try to potentially recapture their glory days, desperately banking on getting the same reaction the movies had back in the day, which I don't really think is possible. The fact of the matter is, in 2007 to 2011, the world was just ready for a Transformers movie in a way that it hasn't been since. There's not 20 years of build-up, and I worry that most audiences are just kind of burnt out by the movies being so generally bad, with the film since Bumblebee not being a stable enough footing to gain their confidences back. 2, they could go with what I think would be the much wiser option and make more movies like the Bumblebee movie with a much smaller budget, not spending more than they can bear to lose, and hopefully use that time to rehabilitate the Transformers movie image with well-liked moderate success one after the other. Basically staying the course that Transformers 1 just set out, even if that wasn't a lucrative movie, no matter how much we try and cope and find ways to squint at the accounting to make it say it turned a profit. As it clearly didn't, given how Hasbro has decided to react to its performance. Or 3, they could say, fuck it, we aren't going at this alone, and the movies haven't been profitable unbelievable since 3 CEOs ago. And either flat out not make another Transformers movie, or go the X-Men route where they only make the movies out of obligation to try and hold on to the license, leading to an even darker time in the Transformers franchise where we get closer to Transmorphers than we ever dared to fear. None of this, of course, means that there won't be new shows, as stepping out of the movie production does not mean stepping out of all media production. However, their track record for shows has been spotty for the last 10 years as well. Rid 2015, the Prime Wars trilogy, the War for Cybertron trilogy, Season 1 of Cyberverse. I hear really bad things about Season 2 of Earthspark, and Transformers Prime is even declining in the collective opinion of the fandom as well. Hasbro has not been dropping the ball. Hasbro has not had the ball in their hands for a second during many Transformers fans' actual lifetimes. And whenever they get close to picking it back up, like with the D&D movie or the Bumblebee movie or Transformers 1, they run a terrible marketing campaign that the goal of which seems to be to convince people that the movie will be terrible and to not go see it, and then they fall flat on their faces. As much as I want to say, hey, this isn't the end of the Transformers media. The 86 movie wasn't the end of it. Beast Wars, Beast Machines, Rid 2001, the Unicron trilogy, and animated didn't even have movies. The whole film aspect of this franchise is actually kind of weirdly a recent addition, even though it's almost 2 decades old at this point. And the comics have been amazing since like 2006. Well, okay, early IDW was actually pretty boring, but it got to a really great point eventually. And the Skybound comics have a lot of promise to them right now. No matter what can be said about those, they are at least better overall than like the last 5 TV shows. Good stuff still comes out in this franchise, and simply choosing to not finance movies seems like it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's just movies, and there's way more to Transformers than just those. Also D&D and the other Hasbro properties. But the simple fact of the matter is that it doesn't seem like they have any intent on utilizing some of the most vital components of this franchise, either well or at all. The things that made their toy line profitable and beloved and a touchstone of world culture even to this very day was the media aspect. The shows giving you characters to cherish and want representations of, to make them stick into your mind and giving you something to gush about with other fans, stuff to dissect and understand, to relate to your own personal life. This franchise cannot survive on goodwill from 20 years ago or more alone. And more than that, I want new stories, good ones, and new experiences. I love this franchise, but it seems like they're completely committed to resting on their laurels and doing nothing. The last Transformers game that was worth a damn sequel baited for something that never came, and now all the actors who played the characters in it are at least a decade older. Some of them can barely do the voices anymore. Or did no one else notice how strained Greg Berger sounded with the Robo-Sen Grimlock? And the last show that anyone agrees did not start as or become a complete dumpster fire is even older. And sure, I'd say that the last 3 movies have been some form of good each, though some of them have not been as good as they should have been. Beast Wars deserved better than to be appended to the sequel to Bumblebee. But by pulling out like this, the only part of the franchise that looks bright anymore is the comics, and we've seen just how fast Hasbro is willing to fuck up and fuck over their other collaborators. How long will Skybound be allowed to have the license? How long until they confirm that Reactivate is actually dead and buried? How long until they make another movie or show? Hasbro sits on a dragon's hoard of IP primed for no effort adaptation on their part that they have refused to do anything with, save for the bare minimum, for longer than most of the people viewing this video have been fans of Transformers as a whole. And with this, they've stated that they plan on doing even less. And now the only hope for new media for this franchise is that the goodwill of other corporations will break through, that Hasbro will then stop ignoring all those people who actually want to make anything with their IP for seemingly no reason, and that after all that, then those people are lucky enough, well-funded enough, and skilled enough that they can make a good product for us to all finally enjoy, and then that the Transformers fans get off their asses and reward them for it. Because clearly, based on Transformers 1, making a thing that the vast majority of us clearly like is not a guarantee of success. I want to have some kind of more uplifting message here. I want to say that it's not all darkness and clouds going forwards, but the most I have is to go, well, they can still make the shows, which they're not doing, and they can still make the video games, which they're not doing. And the comics are still good, so if you like comics, that's something for you to check out. And there's not no hope that another movie happens, but it is likely that what these last several films have been building towards is either getting scuttled or changed drastically. And now the only people in charge of what happens next with no input from Hasbro will be Lorenzo de Bonaventura and maybe Michael Bay, with even less funding at their disposal. If Hasbro was running the company seemingly at any level of competence, the future wouldn't seem so glum. But man, will I even have a job in a few years if Hasbro keeps digging their own grave like this? Will there still be a franchise or anyone left to care about it? Hasbro, if you are going to sit on your hands and say, I don't want to take the risk involved with making stuff anymore, then please, for the love of God, just lift your leg and loosen the death grip you have on your IP to let other people make stuff out of it for you. It'd be like money magically appearing in your pockets, and I don't know why you're just not doing that already. And before we go, let's thank a channel backer. If you'd like to get on the wheel yourselves or get access to the private Discord, then you can join the Patreon or channel memberships. And this time it's Solunder with Legacy Beachcomber. And look, I have a fair few reservations about this figure, but I can at least get what people see in it. The robot mode is very accurate, looking smooth and clean, and I really do love the Paradise Parakeet, which is why I'm so pissed that mine went missing basically instantaneously when I got the figure. It's also at a great scale and feels pretty high quality, and for a deluxe, the posing isn't bad for sure. Beyond that though, I can't really give this much more credit, as I prefer the figure that it's based on, Power of the Prime's Legends Beachcomber, which I think did a lot of what this is doing better. But there's definitely worse things to have your favorite toy based on, and that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.